Big thanks to MOFT for sponsoring this week's video. It's that time again. We've got a roundup of some of my favorite EDC gear under $50, one of my most requested and favorite series. Got a ton of variety here, some really cool stuff, so let's just dive right into it. First up, this is the all-new WUBEN X2 Pro Flashlight. I was lucky enough to get my hands on an early prototype unit. This actually isn't even for sale yet. It's going up on Kickstarter on the 23rd. But I've had a couple of weeks to test it out, and WUBEN continues to blow me away with what they're doing with their lineup. Going over some of the basic specs, it's 3.5 inches long, 1.6 inches wide, and 0.82 inches deep. It weighs 137 grams, has a max lumen output of 1600, but that's about where the normal stuff ends. It uses what they call a composite lens system. You have 4 different LEDs for the main light, and you have a little scroll wheel on the side. You're able to scroll between more of a floodlight and spotlight depending on what you need. I've never really seen anything operate in this way. It's a max of 1600 lumens, but you have the normal low, medium, and high steps at 600, 200, and 15 lumens. On top of that, you have this really interesting side light that's able to rotate 20 degrees, so you can kind of position that where you need. Has a max of 400 lumens for the normal white mode, but you also have the option of a solid red or flashing RGB colors. It's USB-C rechargeable, but it uses 2 14500 or AA batteries that you're easily able to take out, so you don't need to take apart the whole unit or anything. It's a really nice snap system on the bottom to pull those out if and when you need to. It's also IP68 rated for water and dust resistance. You have a nice locking mechanism as well, so it's not going to burn any holes in your bags or your pockets. You have a nice pocket clip on here as well as a magnetic base. And the craziest part of all of this is this thing is under $40, and apparently they're going to be running some even lower priced early birds for the Kickstarter, so be sure to check that out. I'm not even sure what it is. I'm not really sure how many other changes are going to be from what I have here. You know, this is just a prototype unit. Apparently they were very limited, so I was really excited to get my hands on one. Definitely give it a look in a few days when the Kickstarter goes live. I've never really seen anything like it, and for the price point, I think it's going to be one of the best options out there. Even on a budget, everyone needs a good sling bag. This is the TomToc Aviator T33 sling. I'm pretty sure this one just came out. I always try and look for a sling or two for these budget gear lists because it's really important to me, and I assume it's going to be important for a lot of you as well. This is a 3.5 liter bag. I believe it also launched in a 1.5 liter version. They have this black one here as well as like a khaki and like a white light gray type of color. Going over the dimensions here, it's about 12 inches long, 6.5 inches wide, and about 3 inches deep. I'm not sure what the exact weight or specific fabric that they're using here is, but it's some sort of like water resistant nylon ripstop. I think it feels and looks pretty good. Testing this thing out though, it's been such a solid bag for $47. I think the organization is pretty good here. I'll kind of walk you through it. You have a back sort of secret quick access pocket. I always really like this for my wallet and keys when I'm walking around. On the front, you have another exterior pouch with 2 separate pockets in there and a little bit of extra space as well. And on the interior, you have one large zipper pocket, a little bit of a divider here, and then another space. You have quite a bit of depth here compared to a lot of slings that are similar to this. I really like this orange interior as well. It helps with visibility and kind of reminds me of a lot of the X-Pack bags. The entire sling is RFID blocking. They use YKK zips. You have a Duraflex buckle on here. They're really checking a lot of the boxes here, and they've made some really nice changes to their design language, kind of just toning it down a little bit. Overall quality feels really good, especially considering the price. Definitely a good go-to if you're on a tighter budget. Next up on the list is a brand new piece of gear from MOFT called the Snap Flow. MOFT was kind enough to sponsor this week's video as well, so a huge thanks to them. But getting into it, they call it a minimalist focus tool. You have a pen, paper, and organizer all in one in this really thin and light MagSafe form factor. It's such a clever idea. I'm a huge to-do list guy and definitely appreciate the analog nature of pen and paper. You know, being able to clear out my to-do lists is so incredibly satisfying. I write out my to-do lists all the time when I'm at home, but leave my notebooks behind sometimes when I'm going out to minimize the bulk of my carry, but the form factor here really solves that problem. It's tiny, unobtrusive, and way easier to carry with me wherever I'm headed. Just a quick breakdown of the details. It's a 3-piece system. You have the case/stand here, the notepad, as well as an invisible pen. The stand allows you to create a bit of an organizational system for whatever you're writing or sketching. You have the main canvas area, which is pretty self-explanatory, but on the other side, you have a storage slot to place your written notes. And on top of that, you have a reminder board to be able to pin your to-do lists or anything you don't want to forget. It also doubles as a stand, really great way to display your notes or sketches if you need to, but it doubles as a phone stand as well for watching videos or making calls. The pen is also surprisingly nice. It folds completely flat in the case, but kind of tri-folds and snaps together with magnets when you're ready to use it. It works better than you might expect for the small size. It'll feel pretty familiar if you've written with like a Fisher Bullet Space Pen or something similar. The whole package here is really compelling. It's only 0.3 inches thick, it weighs 62 grams, and I love that it has MagSafe and doubles as a phone stand too. I love my tech, but there's always something really satisfying about getting away from all of my digital clutter and embracing something that's a little bit more analog. Be sure to check it out. It launched on Kickstarter a little while ago. I believe they're still running some good pre-release discounts over there if you want to pick one up. I've got links in the description down below. Huge thanks again to MOFT for partnering with me on today's video. Next up, this is the Soundcore P20i Bluetooth wireless earbuds. This is not a category I ever expected to find something worth sharing in for an under $50 list, but these come in at $20. Honestly, the most I expected to be able to say about these is that they were acceptable if this was all the money you had, but they are punching way above their weight class here. You know, Soundcore is always really impressive with the budgets. They have a 30-hour battery life. They use Bluetooth 5.3. You know, they have full connectivity into the Soundcore app, so you can customize the different EQ levels. You know, the sound was way better than I was expecting. Like I said, you know, you don't have any transparency mode or active noise canceling, but the passive noise canceling is really strong. The sound is a little bass heavy as I would expect from most Soundcore stuff, but it's reasonably balanced. You know, it's not very muddy. I think the mids and the highs are still coming through surprisingly well. It was just really shocking when I tested these. They even have a Find My Earbud feature built into the app for these, so it'll make a little bit of sound if you can't find one of the earbuds if you set it down somewhere. If you're in need of some headphones or just want to pick up a spare in case something breaks and you don't want to wait around to buy a new pair of AirPods Pro or something, these are probably the biggest shocker out of this entire list. Surprisingly great sound for a legitimately unbelievable price point. Got a multi-tool up next. This is the SOG PowerPint. I've been looking for some potential alternatives to, you know, the Gerber dime, which I know is a little bit hit or miss on the quality. You know, I have it. It's pretty good, not my favorite. And I love the Leatherman Squirt, and unfortunately they discounted that. So I've been kind of hunting around for other alternative options, and I saw the SOG PowerPint name getting thrown around a lot, so I figured I'd give it a go, and it is really solid. It's definitely a little bit bigger than the Gerber dime or the Leatherman Squirt. If you're okay with a little bit of extra size, I think you get a lot here for the price. It's $37 right now on Amazon. Comes in 119 grams or 4.2 ounces. It's 3.25 inches long when it's closed, you know, 1 inch wide and 1/2 inch deep. So it's still really compact and small, you know, significantly less than my like Leatherman Wave Plus. It's made of stainless steel. This is the stone-washed version. They also have a black one available as well. You have a huge tool list here. They call it an 18-in-1. Not going to list them all out here, but you have a really nice set of pliers. You have a blade, a serrated blade, scissors, pliers, you know, a little precision Phillips, a wire cutter. So all the basics you'd expect are covered here. A couple of things that I haven't seen around. They have what they call a compound leverage gear system. So that's going to help give a little bit more leverage for the pliers, but then it also closes around 1/4 inch hex bits if you want to use it that way. It works really, really well. You have a pocket clip on here too. I know that's a deal breaker for a lot of people, but I think for $37 you get a lot here, and you know, the overall build quality and polish seems really good, especially considering the price. Definitely worth a look if you're mourning the loss of the Leatherman Squirt. Got a watch up next. This is the world famous Casio Duro, probably the most recommended item for me in the past couple of years. Huge fan of Casio. I'm usually more on the digital end of things. I know the Duro is super popular and it comes in just under $50, so I thought it'd be the perfect opportunity to check it out and see what I was missing. I'm a huge fan in this price range of the G-Shock Square. I think that's a really good pickup, but depending on your vibe, what you're going for, looking for, I think this is a really compelling choice as well. They have quite a few different colors and options available. I really love the look of this like really bright, shiny royal blue type of look. This is the MDV 106B-2AV. It uses a Japanese quartz movement. It is a big watch at 44 millimeters. Definitely a little bit too big for my tiny 6.75 inch wrists. But if you have bigger wrists, you know, this is probably perfect. The lug-to-lug is pretty small for this size as well. I think it's 49 millimeters. The entire case body is a polished stainless steel. They do say on their website that it's stainless steel and aluminum. I'm not sure what parts are what, or if it's like a coating or something. It didn't really specify, but it looks like all stainless steel to me. Weighs 92 grams. You don't have sapphire glass or anything for $50. It uses a mineral glass that is completely flat. 200 meters of water resistance with a screw down crown. This really beautiful watch face. The only real downsides here, which I don't think is even really a fault of the watch, at $50 this thing should be way more expensive, but the lume for the watch face is pretty weak. You know, it doesn't glow very much and it fades basically immediately. The screw down crown feels a little wonky and was kind of tough to get re-screwed in. It just kind of felt a little cheap and chintzy. And then lastly, you know, this resin strap belongs on like a, you know, $20 or $30 digital watch and not a nice looking analog watch like this. But what do you expect for the price point? You know, they put all of the money into the actual watch itself, so I'm not really complaining about that, but I figured it would be worth pointing out. They do have steel bracelet options. I think they're like $70 or $80, so you might want to do that. I would probably just get my own to add on. I think it uses 22 millimeter. I'm glad I finally got the chance to check it out. Like I said, I'm still not sure if I'm going to hold on to it personally yet, just because it's so big, but I definitely get the appeal after hearing about it all this time. Always on the hunt for budget pocket knives. This is the QSP Penguin. It comes in at $32. When I first found this and heard about it, I got really excited. I thought it might be a contender to take down Civivi. They tend to kill it for me in the budget ranges, but Civivi's been shifting more into a $50 to $70 price bracket, and they don't have a lot of options under $50 anymore, so I thought this would be a really great new contender, and it's mostly okay, but not exactly as good as I'd hoped. Going over some of the basics, it weighs 94 grams or 3.3 ounces. It's 4 inches in length closed, 7 inches in the overall length. You have a 3.06 inch sheep's foot D2 steel blade. You use a liner lock and a thumb stud for opening. They have quite a few variations available with micarta and G10 handles. I went with this red micarta. I thought it'd be a fun change up. For being micarta, this is extremely smooth on the finish. It doesn't really have the grip and texture that I like micarta for. But the main disappointment for me was the overall action. I don't know if I got a dud compared to everyone else. I watched a couple of videos after I was a bit disappointed with the initial testing, and it seems like I'm the only one having trouble with it, but trying to get this thing open with the thumb stud is like problematic. It's softening up the longer I have it, but it definitely is just not smooth like the Civivi blades are in this price range even. The value is still here, and it's definitely not terrible or anything, but I was hoping for just a little bit more in the smoother action, and I was a little bit disappointed just because I saw so many rave reviews about it before I picked one up. All in all though, definitely not a bad knife for $30. You still get a really nice reversible deep carry pocket clip, D2 steel, which is solid at this price point. I would have a tough time recommending this over the Mini Praxis though. I don't have the $30 version. I have the like fancier Jaborsha wood one here, but they have a $29 Mini Praxis I think blows this thing out of the water. So I would probably pick that up as an alternative if you're looking for something in this price range. But, you know, it's not to say that this is a bad option. It seems like I'm in the minority with the action, so I could have gotten a dud. And I'm not fancy enough to be able to take this apart and smooth it out and get it fixed up. It was interesting to check out, not quite a Civivi killer, but definitely a good option in this price range. And if you're wanting a fresh blade and wanting to spend even less than that, this is the Gerber EAB Lite. Been on a really big utility blade kick lately, and I actually picked this one up over a year ago and kind of forgot to test it and share it with everyone. You know, Gerber is a little bit hit or miss on their pocket knives. I've tried a couple and just wasn't really happy with them, but their utility blades, on the other hand, I think are really solid, and this is definitely no exception. I love the design for this. It's just such a tiny little thing. It's only 2.75 inches closed. It's 5 inches fully opened. It weighs 68 grams or 2.4 ounces. It closes with a liner lock. You have a pocket clip. It's only $13 on Amazon right now. Really great value if you want something super compact and small and like this sort of metal design look. Definitely worthy for a spot in the rotation for my utility blade setup. Got a 2-for-1 up next. This is is the LOCHBY Tool Roll and the LOCHBY Venture Pouch. I actually first heard about these from a friend of mine. He had it with him when we were out to lunch, and the following day I got an email from LOCHBY asking if I wanted to check a couple of things out. So I asked for these. I've been testing them out for the past couple of months, and I've been really happy with them, and they come in at a pretty great price point for what you get. They're each $49 and use a waxed canvas on the exterior. I thought that was a really nice touch. You know, a lot of organizational pouches and things, you're using ripstops with, you know, nylon or polyester or anything. You know, if you like that more organic look and feel, especially if you're carrying around tools or something, wax canvas can just be a little bit more durable in that context and has a bit of a cool factor. Starting first with the Venture Pouch, this was a really interesting design. You know, on the interior, you have this nice like ripstop nylon type of look, but it is a honeycomb pattern instead of the normal ripstop pattern. I think it just adds a little level of polish to the smaller detail that I really appreciate. But the design and layout of this is what really stood out to me. It's actually a two-sided design. So on the bottom side here, you have a little like mini tool roll almost with these elastics to keep pens or, you know, small flashlights, or I have a little multi-tool here. So you can kind of have this on one side and be able to close it up and seal it up, but then you flip it over and that almost acts like a divider for the pouch on this half. Really minimal on the organization here. You just have two little pockets on the side here, and then the divider that's created from the underside, and then just kind of an open compartment here. I'm not sure what the exact capacity is. It's probably somewhere around 1 liter to 1.5 liters, something like that. It uses YKK zips on both sides. It measures 9 inches by 4.75 inches by 2 inches deep. Weighs 155 grams. You have these little D-loops here if you want to attach it to something or attach something to it. My only real complaint with this one is just the, you know, main compartment zipper opening. Because of the two-sided design, they have to have the zippers for the bottom half running up really tall here, so it kind of limits the entry point here, so it makes things a bit crowded if you're really filling this up trying to get something out. Little nitpicky, but definitely worth mentioning though. Otherwise, you know, a really solid pouch if you're looking for something a little bit different from the norm, or have a really creative use for this split design style. I think it'd be worth checking this one out. The other one here is the LOCHBY Tool Roll. They're calling this a tool roll, but they're definitely marketing it more as like an EDC pouch or an EDC roll, you know, more so than, you know, regular proper tools. Unrolled, it's 8 inches by 16 inches. The hook that they're using to keep it closed is made out of aluminum. Organization is simple but really nice. You have a zipper pouch on the end here for any sort of smaller items. You have 3 pouches that go along the back here. They're all pretty equally sized. And then in front of that, you have this row of elastics to be able to attach tools or pens or whatever you need. You know, my only real gripe with this was the depth of the elastics here. You know, I was trying to fit this and see what fit and what didn't fit. You know, most of these are really small and more of a pen size than big enough for proper tools. I would have loved to have seen just 2 per section, maybe on here too. You know, keep the 4 smaller ones here for pens or whatever, but then just have 4 different options here. Having 3 here that are more of a medium size for the elastics, you know, they fit a lot like the 4 on the small side, so you're just kind of stuck with only being able to fit smaller items in these elastics. You know, they might stretch out over time or something, but I found trying to get bigger items in and out of these smaller elastics very annoying, so I probably wouldn't even try. And, you know, would hope that it wouldn't stretch out significantly over time. So that's my only real complaint here. But if you're using this for smaller items, you know, if you're an artist or, you know, want to carry a bunch of different pens or paintbrushes or anything like that, I think this would be just about as perfect as it gets. So depending on what you use it for, it's excellent. You know, just be wary if you want to load this up with like really big, cumbersome type of tools. Last up is a bit of a repeat, but it was too good not to share. This is the TORRAS MiniMag MagSafe Power Bank. I know I just talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I'd planned to talk about this, but try out some really low priced options because this one's $43, so it definitely fits under the $50 limit, but it's not necessarily cheap for a MagSafe power bank. I wanted to look at some cheaper power banks. I bought a couple and really hated them. I didn't want to share stuff I didn't like. You know, I'm fine having critiques with things that I do like, but something that is just not good at all, you know, I'm usually not going to bother talking about it because who wants to be that negative all the time? But if you can swing the cash for this, It has been awesome. It's about the thinnest MagSafe power bank I've ever seen. It comes in at 9 millimeters or 0.35 inches thick, weighs 4 ounces or 112 grams. You have 5,000 milliamp hours of capacity or 19.35 watt hours for anyone asking. I know we've been talking battery stuff a lot in the comments lately. So yeah, 19.35 watt hours for this. It has a 15 watt recharge speed. The only real downside here is the charging speed for the devices. It'll charge at 7.5 watts for the MagSafe and 10 watts through the USB-C. So it's a little bit slower, but I think it's worth the trade-off if you're looking for something very thin for an EDC setup. I'm fine with having something thicker when I'm traveling. I usually want more capacity anyway, but when I'm going about my day, you know, I want to be able to put this on my phone, put it in my pocket, and not have, you know, a gigantic brick between the two devices stuck together in my pocket, you know, weighing everything down. So this is really thin, really light, and unobtrusive for like day-to-day use. So I think it's perfect for that. It's actually going to wrap it up for today's list though. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I'd love to hear down in the comments if there's any gear you've been loving, any budget stuff you want me to check out for future iterations of this. You know, leave it in the comments, let me know. Thank you all so much for watching though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.